So in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 1 and 2 describes the birth of Jesus, and chapter 3 gives us the baptism of Jesus. And then in Matthew chapter 4, we find the beginning of Jesus' ministry where he's tempted by the devil, he calls the 12, and he begins to teach, to minister, and to heal. And then in Matthew chapter 5 is where we find verse number 1, where it says, "When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him." And verse number 2 says, "And Jesus began to teach them." Over the next 109 verses in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, we find Jesus' most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. Now, this is a countercultural message because this was against everything that the disciples had heard up to that point in their life. But over the next 3 months, over the next 25 messages this summer, we're going to be diving into every one of those verses as we look at Jesus' most famous sermon. Now, let me challenge you, church, to bookmark summeronthemount.com because you're going to find message videos, you're going to find reflection questions, bonus content, and a great reading plan where we're going to look through the harmony of the Gospels. And this is a unique, fresh way to read the story of Jesus because you're going to be reading in all 4 Gospels at the same time. So mark 10, 15 minutes a day to read through the Gospels this summer. This message, this sermon is going to challenge, it's going to convict you, and you may hear things that you don't always like because it's completely countercultural. But Jesus is calling us to something deeper. He's calling us to become rooted disciples. Amy and I love getting Chinese food, and one of the best parts about getting Chinese food is, of course, the fortune cookie. And so after we finished our meal recently, I opened up my fortune, and I, at first glance, loved the fortune that I got. Because the fortune said, it told me, you are going to have a very comfortable life. And when you read that, you're like, of course I want a comfortable life. Yes, I'll take it. But when we think about living in our comfort zone, that is the opposite of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is not calling us to a comfortable life. He's calling us out of our comfort zone. And so, church, this summer, on Summer on the Mount, as we dive in, as we dig into these 109 verses, Jesus is calling us away from the comfortable life, out of our comfort zone, to become rooted disciples of Jesus. Church, are you in?